You are tearing me apart, Lisa!
Job if I wanted to. And you have to do it. You have to. Or I'll fire you. Do you understand?
I think this will suck. No! Don't record that.
So if I were to sum up exactly what the hell happens in this movie, I'll break it down to a couple of words for everybody. A lot of shit blows up. Godzilla, King of the Monsters is directed by Michael Bay and has everything a Michael Bay film has to offer. A shit ton of explosions and comedy that lands so incredibly well. Okay, I'm kidding. This movie is actually directed by Michael Dougherty and is the long-awaited sequel to 2014's rather surprisingly good entry to this new Monsterverse. Now, compared to many of my other reviews, I'm going to do something a little different today. I want to dive deeper into this movie than I have with any others and try to explain exactly why I think this movie is a giant CGI shitfest and a complete convoluted mess. Welcome to Diving Deep. As many of you probably already know, I wasn't a fan of the 2014 Godzilla when it first came out. I looked at it as it barely had Godzilla, he had like 10 minutes of screen time, it focuses too much on the human characters and I found them bland and boring at the time. But upon rewatch, I actually really enjoyed it. As I've gotten more into this movie reviewing stuff, I realised that a lot of movies that I didn't like in the past are actually very good. But 2014's Godzilla had something about it that this movie just doesn't. It had that great feeling of suspense building up to an epic monster battle at the end. It didn't show much of Godzilla at all, and that just added to it. Much like how Jaws disguised the look of the shark by showing just its fin for a majority of the film, Steven Spielberg did an excellent job in that aspect. Another example would be that suspense was built up in 1987's Predator by keeping this unknown creature cloaked in some kind of invisibility for the most part, until revealing its actual look in the end, and that feeling of being constantly at the edge of your seat, it's incredible. So bit by bit, I'm going to break down this review into sections of things that I liked and things that I disliked. Most of it is going to be what I dislike, because I generally don't think this film is good at all. So I'm going to put out a warning right now, full spoilers for the entire plot. If you don't care about spoilers, hello, but if you do care about spoilers, I suggest you go watch the film and then come back to this review. Okay, you've been warned, let's get to it. So Kong Skull Island wasn't all that, and it had a post-credit scene, so I was like, great, this Monsterverse is trying to ride off the success of Marvel. And that's pretty much what this film is trying to do as well with its post-credit scene, but I'll get into that later. With the first film, it created moments of suspense. This film, on the other hand, didn't. I can understand that now we know what Godzilla looks like in these movies, it's not really that surprising whenever he shows up. The movie gives you pretty much what a lot of fans wanted in 2014's Godzilla, and that's more Godzilla. But what this film really lacked in it for me were the monster fights. There's so much going on in terms of explosions and CGI flying everywhere, from the chase scene with Rodan to King Ghidorah shooting lightning from its 3 heads everywhere, makes it a little hard to see. With most scenes based in a very dark element, it's hard to see exactly what's going on, and with the camera angles that Dougherty used in the fight scenes were a lot more close up and messy compared to the first. In the first film, we can see those beautifully shot wide angles of Godzilla battling with those 2 Mutos, and in this film, with its dark elements and bright special effects, it's hard to make out what's actually happening. You find yourself squinting at the screen sometimes, trying to glance in on what's going on. I just wish they used a more vibrant colour in these scenes so we can at least tell what was going on and we could tell who the hell was hitting who. I think maybe Dougherty fell into some bad habits. Now let me explain. In the first film, some of the shots of the Mutos and Godzilla were shot as if a human was looking up at them, which I thought was incredible, but with this movie they shoot some of the fight scenes from these angles too. And with the flickering CGI and darkness, it makes these scenes really hard to sit through and sometimes unbearable. But not to say it's terrible entirely, the effects on the monsters itself I think is very impressive for the most part, but when it comes to the fighting, it's a complete CGI fest with tons of explosions, hence where my Michael Bay joke came from, hence the Transformers. Explosions, explosions, explosions. Oh, I know, let's throw in some explosions, that makes great film, right? That makes great filmmaking. So as you can tell, overall in that aspect, I was pretty bored sitting through the fight scenes. I didn't find them impressive, they weren't that exciting, but whenever Godzilla is on screen, just the very presence of Godzilla, it's pretty cool stuff. But other than that, if they just chose a more vibrant colour, didn't make everything so goddamn dark. We could see what was going on. It was most frustrating when it came to King Ghidorah's lightning in the darkness, because every now and then he'd shoot his lightning, there'd be a flash of light, you'd see like a little bit going on, and then it'll go dark again. It was really frustrating to sit through for the most part. But now I want to dive into something else. The characters. Another big downfall from the first Godzilla in this movie is the characters. In the first movie, we had an incredible short performance from Bryan Cranston. We had Ken Watanabe, who was also in this movie. We had Elizabeth Olsen and Aaron Taylor-Johnson, who generally put on good performances, although Aaron Taylor-Johnson seemed a bit emotionless in parts of the first film. This movie abandons all those characters other than Ken Watanabe and rolls with a new cast of characters with the likes of Vera Farmiga, Kyle Chandler and Millie Bobby Brown. What these characters lack is any charisma that the first films had. Ken Watanabe is back and he's great with the likes of Kyle Chandler and Vera Farmiga, who are super talented. They're given so little to do. Kyle Chandler is just family man. Vera Farmiga is just scientist person. And I was very disappointed with Millie Bobby Brown's character Madison, who's the daughter of Kyle Chandler and Vera Farmiga. Millie Bobby Brown was the highlight of Stranger Things, and I was excited to see what else her acting talent could bring to the table. But in this movie, she's so bland and irritating. She despises her mother for reasons which I'll get into later, and due to that, she makes a ridiculous decision, and it's self-frustrating to watch sometimes. The characters in this movie are horribly written and boring. Any attempt at any backstory or reasons for me to care for these people just doesn't work at all. Kyle Chandler continuously yells at people in this film, which makes him incredibly unlikable. Vera Farmiga's reason for doing what she's doing is dumb. Her agenda for this entire thing is dumb. And Millie Bobby Brown is just, defiant teenage daughter. Creative, right? But Ken Watanabe is what makes this film watchable in the aspect of the human characters, and since this movie pretty much follows the story of these humans in this certain situation, but when he's killed off towards the end, which was a huge letdown, and his death ends with an annoying cliche line. Goodbye, old friend. Oh, is that the best you could come up with?
Oh, there it is.
So with Ken Watanabe's character completely out the picture, the thing which bothers me the most about these characters is that any attempts of humour just fall flat, and it gets increasingly more difficult not to cringe and have the urgency to tell the characters to shut the fuck up. Kong Skull Island suffered with this exact same thing. None of the characters just seemed interesting. None of the attempts at humour landed. The only characters in Kong Skull Island I remember even liking was Samuel L. Jackson and John C. Reilly. Even Tom Hiddleston was bland in that film. It's like, couldn't the writers be bothered to give these characters some backstory? They just shove these small things in and expect me to care. But there are so many characters in this film that I even forget who's who sometimes. To sum up how much I care about these characters, there's one character named Vivian, played by Sally Hawkins. You may know her from 2017's fantastic movie, The Shape of Water. But in this film, she's so forgettable that I even forgot she died in one scene. And to make matters worse, I can't even remember which part of the film it was. Throughout the movie, we'll get various other characters just pop out the blue, and suddenly the movie goes, "Hey, care about this character, goddammit!" And you just don't. Random people pop up and people come and go. There's too many characters to focus on and way too many lines of cliche, unfunny dialogue for me to take any of these seriously. If it weren't for Ken Watanabe, the golden saviour, my brain would have melted in disbelief. To make these characters even more unbearable, they make incredibly dumbass decisions. The one scene where Godzilla is refueling in his home underwater after a fight with King Ghidorah, Kyle Chandler elaborates some kind of plan to wake up Godzilla sooner by using a fucking nuclear explosive!
What? What are you talking about?
A nuclear explosion that could potentially destroy Godzilla's home, the place where he's been hiding, the reason why he's never been seen for all these years, since the last one, and they're going to blow it up? I'm pretty sure Godzilla would be pissed, because I know I would be. Jeebus. Now, Madison's dumbass decision that she makes for hating her mom for reasons I will get to eventually, her decision is to lure Godzilla and King Ghidorah to a baseball stadium, which was also a what the frick moment. I don't know what her plan was here other than to get them to fight and potentially put herself in danger at the same time. Before I get into the final few points about this movie, which pisses me off, I just want to talk about the other monsters for a moment, other than King Ghidorah and Godzilla. I'll need your guys' help for this bit. So Godzilla is cool and Ghidorah looks incredible and awesome, which is very disappointing seeing as the way this movie used them. But I want to talk about Rodan and Mothra for a second. Not much explained why Rodan sided with Ghidorah and Mothra sided with Godzilla, which is a little confusing to me. If anyone knows, I'm really interested to know. I don't really know shit about Godzilla, bar from this movie and 2014's Godzilla, and the crappy 1998 version with Matthew Broderick. I've never seen the original Godzilla movies from Japan, or anything on those lines, so my Godzilla knowledge isn't at its best. The agenda. So the whole agenda in this movie is dumb. This is why Madison hates Vera Farmiga. Vera Farmiga gives that really cliche line that we've seen in so many movies about humanity being the problem in the planet's slow death. She goes on about how the human race is being an infection, it's being a plague upon the planet, and that these titans, as they now call them, are destroying a city and new life grows wherever they go. And Vera's agenda here is to cleanse the world of humanity's infection. Where have I heard that before in a TV show or film?
Human beings are a disease, a cancer of this planet. You are a plague, and we are the cure.
To be slowed down, it'll be solved permanently.
Killing billions to save lives. That's the logic of tyrants.
For a greater good, humanity.
Genius does not come with extra rights.
No, it
Sienna.
comes with the responsibility to take action when others won't.
Oh, I know, because it's one of the most overused plot lines ever. So this is why Madison gets a bit pissed off and then decides to run off and lure the two monsters straight to her. And one more thing I'll mention before I go, everyone, the post-credit scene is also dumb. At the very end, when you see Godzilla and King Ghidorah have a fight, yeah, the way Godzilla killed Ghidorah was actually pretty freaking awesome. He had one of Ghidorah's heads in his mouth and he used his atomic breath and then burnt the dragon's head while it was in his mouth. Pretty awesome stuff. And towards the end, you see like one head has been saved. Stereotypical villain. Charles Dance plays the villain and he's just the bad guy. He just wants shit to blow up. That's about it. So he's keeping one of Ghidorah's heads in some kind of basement. Wow, a secret governmental project thing. Keeping a supernatural being inside a warehouse or something. To use it for purposes unknown. So yeah, you can tell that the post-credit scene was a lot of shit as well. So there you go. The whole agenda for this entire thing was to cleanse the world of humanity's infection. It's infuriating. Humanity is the infection. Humanity is the disease. I'm going to infect the world and commit mass genocide. Oh my days, it's one of the oldest and most annoying movie cliches in the book. Surely, is this the best they could have done? They just reuse old plots from other movies about humanity and how they all need to die for the planet to be saved. Even movies more recently have done this sort of thing. Movies like Avengers Infinity War did it. But there's a big difference. They did it well. So overall, guys, Godzilla King of the Monsters has some great fan service in terms of all the monster appearances and the cameos from certain characters. It's got realistic CGI, but it suffers from the traits of what made the original special. You can't see shit. You literally can't see shit. The characters aren't interesting. The dialogue isn't funny. I am so disappointed with how this movie turned out. Especially since I've recently become a fan of the 2014 original one. Now, I had a choice whether to review this or to talk about the Monsterverse, but I'm glad people voted on my Instagram story. Thank you very much for whoever voted, asking me to do this instead, because I've had a lot of fun making this review. This is literally the longest I've talked about a movie for so long without actually having to use too many jump cuts. The glory of actually scripting your videos. But overall, Godzilla King of the Monsters is a CGI shitfest and a complete convoluted mess, and I'm going to give Godzilla King of the Monsters a D. So tell me, guys, what did you think of Godzilla King of the Monsters down below in the comments? I hope you like this video. Diving deep is going to be something new which I'm going to try and do more of. I know I didn't dive as deep into this film as I wanted to, but this is just my first attempt at doing it, so if you liked it, give me a thumbs up, and if you thought I was shit, give me a thumbs down. Okay guys, as always, I hope you have a fantastic day. If you're new to my channel, please consider clicking that subscribe button. I upload at least once a week. Remember, you are awesome. Take care.